Welcome everyone.
This conference
Clara?
will now be recorded.
Okay, thank you.
Having issues
Well-
with my cursor here.
Of course it will. At the end of the year, that's what happens. All right, I want to welcome everyone to the Town of Woodbury 2021 year-ending board meeting. This occurs every year around the last day or so, so we can basically clear up our accounting. I'm going to ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence, and then we will move on. I got my flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, I see we have a few people that are on that probably wish to say something. So, Mr. Stephen Gargano, I know that you asked to be on this, so the floor is open.
Thank you for the invite, and thank you all for your service over the past year. I know Jacqueline and a few others I've had conversations with, and you've all have been wonderful taking the time to explain things, modify plans throughout the COVID, and trying to work with the community during these definitely a hard time. So overall, what I wanted to say was the other day, reading in the photo news, that I didn't notice that Woodbury was one of the towns that opted out of selling marijuana. They listed all the other surrounding towns, and I was kind of a little bit taken back by it, but thought maybe, who knows, maybe they just didn't say Woodbury or Central Valley. Then I went to place a phone call over to the town just to get clarification, and it found out that the village of Woodbury passed it or decided not to opt out. I found it kind of odd. We did a quick Google search, and then the Times Herald record happened to have an article stating that 46 counties or towns have opted out, and Woodbury and Newburgh were like the only two. And living up here pretty much my whole entire life, this community has always had the best school district, best facilities, towns, parks. I mean, you name it, the people are passionate. They're passionate about the children. They're passionate about the quality of life up here. It is difficult. We are next to the commons. We do deal with a lot of our police department is taxed with traffic and shoplifting and everything else, but God willing, overall, the town has been wonderful. Given that, I was definitely taken back by why we, off of Route 32 and Route 17, and with everyone coming up to the commons, decided that it would not be prudent and reasonable to at least use this to opt out, and then you could always opt in the future once something you had more information. It just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me that you would use this. I mean, we're dealing with New York State here as another barrier of complication. This is a litigious state. There's many ways around things. We're all well aware of that. You could be sued for discrimination. You could be sued for this or that. I just figured it didn't make sense. I placed a phone call over. Frank was kind enough to give me a call back pretty much that night. And I think a lot of the residents were taken back. And I did speak the other day with the village mayor and expressed my disappointment, and saying that the article didn't really paint him in a good light. And I'm really surprised. The response kind of was, hey, we had a hearing in June. You should have showed up to the hearing. The people that were there were supportive of it. That's why we had the hearing early. I said, well, if you wanted this whole thing to be, I said, the reason we passed zoning laws is so people don't build an airport in the middle of town. Why allow it and then have someone come in and say, now you're disallowing it based on, whatever reason they want to come up with. You're discriminating against me. The zoning is allowed for it. Regardless, I'm thinking, I would hope that the town, it may not carry that much weight, but at least it shows the people that, to me, the town is opting out of this in a prudent, reasonable way, in that maybe in the future we get more information. It's a stopgap. All the other towns are kind of doing it. Not that that's the right way to think about things, but overall, Route 32 is the main area. School buses travel down this, parents, kids. I mean, you look at every school, it's on there. Do you want Woodbury Commons selling marijuana? And the kids from high school go over. This isn't like buying beer and stuff like you're bringing back a 12er back to class. I mean, you could put this stuff in your pocket. You could sell it. If you have someone over 21 who can buy it, I mean, this happens. We were all kids and growing up, we all were able to get beer and cigarettes and stuff. So that to me just seems prudent and reasonable. The arguments for it are tax revenue and other things. I have to be honest with you. We're all have lived a long enough life to realize if the tax revenue was a big thing, how come we're all not sitting pretty from the Woodbury Commons? They bring in millions of dollars a day. If tax revenue off of sales of drugs, alcohol, tobacco were that big, tobacco's been sold for years and years and years in convenience stores, you name it, pharmacies, CVS. It has never had a big impact on anything in society. Not that it's good or it's bad. I'm just saying the tax revenue argument is a very, very weak one. It isn't like we're allowing Boeing to come in and we're creating jobs in a real tax base of high income type earners. That to me as a CPA makes sense. And the other thing I'd like to point to is that in California, this was legal. And I just looked up an article, I had sent it to you guys. The legal shops are closing due to the fact that the illegal marijuana is cheaper than the legal marijuana. And that because they passed bail reform, there is no barrier anymore or punishment for those people selling the illegal marijuana. So you could actually stand outside of the regular store, sell it. The police will come by as long as you have within the legal limit. They let you go, or you're arrested and it's a misdemeanor. And the bail reform, which we have in New York State, you're allowed back out. And so it doesn't make sense. So New York they passed this on the other hand, then they lowered the barrier of illegal drugs because they say we're no longer going to hold anyone accountable for it. So the idea that this is a safe way to get it and this will be profitable, it just doesn't make sense from an economic standpoint overall. So I just kind of wanted to say that. I know a lot of the people that were on the Facebook group may not have been able to be here, but as a resident, my wife being a teacher, living in this town, I hope that you would take all of those into consideration for the pros and the cons and everything else. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anybody else out there that wishes to speak on this subject?
I would. Yes,
Who's
please.
that?
This is Rachel Bruce.
Okay, go ahead, Rachel.
All right, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Supervisor Palermo, for allowing me to speak this morning. I'm here to speak in favor of the town opting into this important economic opportunity. As many of you know, the village did not opt out of sales last spring, which means that the majority of the town geographically will be able to opt in. In fact, the only part of the town that won't be able to is the portion of Harriman, which contains Old Glory Mall, Walmart, Harriman Commons, which really is a prime opportunity for this kind of economic venture. And look, I mean, I'm sure you've heard a lot of the different talking points this morning, but the thing is, if we allow liquor stores, if we allow bars, alcohol is actually known to create drunk driving and dangerous situations, and we don't allow marijuana, which is already legal, and we can't do anything about it. We're creating a tremendous double standard and really denying a really great economic opportunity for an entire generation of small businesses who, quite frankly, may not have the impetus to start up their own venture here in Woodbury. For all the tax revenue we lose from the commons, this is a great way to make it up. 3% may not sound like a lot, but this is money that we can use to go towards our schools, towards the police department, towards the parks department, towards our libraries. The special funding is being allocated from the tax revenue throughout the state to give money to state police departments and local police departments for special technology to be able to detect for intoxicated drivers. And even in states where this has been legalized, in Colorado and Massachusetts, we have seen no increase in the amount of vehicular homicides or deaths. In fact, we've seen a decrease in some of these numbers. So really, marijuana is here in New York State. It's here to stay. Having a dispensary decreases the look. It decreases the dangerousness of marijuana that people may already be buying from their local drug dealer. And let's be real. People do smoke marijuana in Woodbury. They always have, whether you're 17 or 67, it doesn't matter. But if you buy it legally from a safe source, the likelihood of there being fentanyl or angel dust or any number of dangerous substances is dramatically decreased. And I don't know, I don't personally smoke marijuana. I don't know if that's really relevant to this conversation, but I have been to the dispensary in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. It's beautiful. It's like walking into a high-end department store at Woodbury Common. It's incredibly safe. They take your ID. It's fine. And quite frankly, we're creating a double standard and denying a tremendous economic opportunity. And it's counterproductive, really, to the majority of the town, considering that marijuana is already legal in Woodbury. So I hope that this board will consider opting in. And just a reminder, this may be the only opportunity to opt out, but there will be ballot initiatives to opt back in. And the Young Democrats of Orange County, which I lead, and the Young Democrats in New York State is already working on that. So this might just be an easy way to avoid all of that and just ensure that we can get right to it. So
Okay,
I thank you all
thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
I'd like to say something. So I also, this is Jared
Who- what-
Aegis.
Who is this? I'm sorry.
Jared Aegis, resident of Highland Mills.
Thank you.
I also would like to just basically echo a lot of the points that Steve was making. And just as a father of 3 young kids, and I think a lot of people that have come up to the area have come up because it's a nice family-friendly environment. Again, really good schools. I feel like over time, legalizing marijuana will potentially diminish that. And like just case in point, yesterday, my wife ran out to the commons to do a quick errand with my daughter who's 8 years old. And she's walking through the commons and like they're walking through like clouds and clouds of marijuana smoke. And that's now, and if this gets passed, it's only going to intensify it. And I feel like that it's the kind of the beginning of the deterioration of a nice community. So I just feel like it's I understand there's a tax revenue component, but then you also have to think at what cost, and does the risk of this really outweigh the reward? And at this point, I really feel like doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Thank you, Gerard. Is there anybody else? Okay. Then let's move on to our agenda, and I will, as we get to that point of discussion on the new business, I will state some things beforehand, and then we can move on to the actual voting of the proposal. All right, so administrative business, I need a motion and a second to accept the town board minutes of 12/16/2021. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Acceptance of the revised abstract of 21. Desiree, do you have that?
I do.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the voucher number that was being voided was not provided, but I do have the check number, which is 24,747, in the amount of $156.80, which reduces the total of the abstract to be $1,262,752.07.
All right, I'm glad to see we're saving some money here. All right, I need a motion and a second to accept that new abstract.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Anybody against it? Okay. The approval of abstract number 25, the last of the year. Desiree?
It includes vouchers 21-2000 through 21-2084. Totals $561,150.98, And just to point out, it includes the check for the previous one that we just voided because the address was incorrect. So we didn't really save the money. We're just paying it now instead.
Thank you, Desiree.
You're welcome. Sorry to burst your bubble there.
That's okay. All right. I'll make the motion to accept it. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Thank you. Okay. Budget modifications. I think we have one.
Yes,
That's
there's just
right.
one. Do you want me to read it?
Please.
It's a modification to the 2021 budget for the tax collector by increasing a 1330.411 office supplies by $133, a 1330.412 postage by $1,002, a 1330.443 tax bills by $95, a 1330.454 advertising by $18, and decreasing a 1330.430 transportation and travel by $600, a 1330.444 school and dues by $125, and increasing a 599 appropriated fund balance by $435.
Okay. Thank you, Desiree. Do I have a motion and a second for that?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Let's go on to new business. I did get in touch with Mike for the pickleball proposal, and he did tell me that they are going to decrease the original amount that they gave us. He didn't give me an exact number yet, but I'm going to ask that.
The number is in the paperwork we got yesterday.
Yes, it's $79,774.
Well, thank you very much. I didn't get a chance to see that yet, so thank you, Tyler. So I'm going to I need a motion and a second to authorize the deputy supervisor, who is going to be the supervisor-elect in 2 days, to sign the revised pickleball court proposal. So I need that motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I'll second it. Any discussion? Thank you.
Yes. Can we have a discussion?
Yeah.
There were, in the past, there was a prior proposal, and I just got this morning, so I apologize. But anyway, I don't see any warranty in the proposal.
Joe, they did provide us with a warranty the first time they gave it to us, and they did provide us with the insurance that is good until, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't have the paperwork right in front of me, which is still good until April 2022, as well as the workman's compensation. That is in my office or Tom's office in the future. It is there to be provided. And so they've already issued all that paperwork from the first time they gave us a proposal.
Can you make sure that gets to my office, since I have to have it attached to the proposal on file for future?
Okay, Tom can get it to you. It's in my office. It's in a green envelope, if I'm not mistaken, or it's on the paperwork that's in the office that had to do with our last meeting. It was attached to the last proposal.
If we're unsure about the warranty, then I say why don't we passing it for now and not wait?
There is a warranty.
Next week. All right.
Tyler, there is a warranty.
Okay.
He gave us a warranty. If I'm not mistaken, it's a 15-year warranty. It's in the paperwork.
Yeah.
It was given out the first time this proposal came about a while back, but that's okay. It's up to you. You can either vote or you don't have to vote. So I need a motion and a second to have the.
You already have a motion in a second.
Okay. So all in favor?
Do you want to make it subject to my review prior to the deputy supervisor signing it?
Yes.
Or would you want to? Okay.
Oh. Okay. Desiree, do a roll call, please.
Okay, let me just finish adding subject to Attorney McKay's review. Supervisor Palermo,
Yes.
Councilman Burke,
Desiree, I don't see Tom on.
Tom has
he dropped off.
Yeah, he
Okay.
might have dropped off by
Do we
accident.
know when he left? Because I have to notate that in the minutes.
It must have just happened because
Just happened?
I would say like maybe 10:20 or 10:18.
Okay. Okay,
Looks
so
like
he
he
was here
just-
for the budget modification?
Yes, he was.
Yes.
It just happened, Desiree.
Okay. Councilman Etzel,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilman Hunter.
Yes.
Okay. Let's get on to the fun part of this meeting, which has brought people on. And that is the approval
Frank?
of a
I think he may be back on. There's a new caller.
It's me,
Okay.
it's Tom.
Okay, Tom, how do you feel about the thing for the pickleball court? And Tyler added that upon Joe McKay's approval. Just so you know, that paperwork is in the office. You should be able to find it. I'm pretty sure it's right on my desk. The paperwork for, you know, the, what do you call, the insurances and the warranty.
Yes, I agree with it. I'll take care of it when I start.
You
I'm
got
in
it.
agreement with I'm in agreement with the pickleball court, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And the new fee, yes.
Okay, no problem. Appreciate it. Okay. I'm going to read the resolution that is on 3B. Is a resolution of the town board, town of Woodbury, stating opposition to allowing marijuana dispensaries and on-site consumption facilities within the town of Woodbury. Whereas on March 31st, 2021, Governor Andrew Cuomo signed into law the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, governing many aspects of cannabis sales and possession within the state of New York. Whereas pursuant to MRTA, which is the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, local cannabis dispensaries and local on-site consumption establishments would be permitted. And whereas MRTA authorized cities, towns, and villages to opt out of the provisions of the MRTA that authorize local cannabis dispensaries and on-site consumption establishments. And whereas the village board of the village of Woodbury, not the town of Woodbury, town board, had the authority to adopt a local law to opt out of the MRTA's local dispensary and on-site consumption establishments, but chose not to do so, thus making cannabis dispensaries and on-site consumption facilities legal within the town and village of Woodbury. And whereas the town believes that permitting such dispensaries and establishments is inconsistent with the family and community-centered character of this town, and it is not in the overall best interest of the town's residents. So now therefore, it is hereby resolved that the town board of the town of Woodbury states its opposition to the village board and the village of Woodbury's actions that permitted the legalization of cannabis dispensaries and on-site cannabis consumptions established within the town of Woodbury. Now, I know that we have not had an opportunity to really discuss this. As Steve mentioned earlier, this article came out just the other day in the Times Herald Record, and he called me up and asked me to put this on the agenda to have it discussed. And I felt that, you know, if they're thinking about it, I think it was a good idea. And my feeling is that the Village of Woodbury's Board of Trustees never really called the town of Woodbury to discuss this particular law, to maybe get our viewpoint on how we feel about what's going on in the town of Woodbury. And although he stated that Mayor Egan stated that there was a public hearing, which I believe there was, I feel that as a board member and the supervisor for the town of Woodbury, I wasn't given an opportunity to give my opinion directly to the town board before they were even voting on it, that I would have liked a discussion between the two boards on this, and it didn't occur. So I'm going to give this board now an opportunity to, had we been involved in this, to basically state how they felt about it. They can vote on it. I personally am not in favor of this. I feel that the village, that the village should have opted out, and for the reasons that in July, they hadn't even written the law on this. You're voting on a law that you have no clue as to what is in it, and that you have no idea what can be done and what can't be done. Instead, you basically, from some of the comments that I've heard on Facebook from people, that it's a revenue generating provision. My feeling is, you want to generate revenue in the village of Woodbury, go out and get a hotel sales tax approved for the village of Woodbury and allow those hotels to be built instead of having a moratorium. And you'll receive plenty of revenue, and it won't be through the sale of marijuana. So that is part of the reason why I've done this today. I know I sprung it on you. You know, those things sometimes happen, and people have written to me that we didn't get a chance to discuss it, so you can discuss it now. And then at the end, I will also state that this is a non-binding resolution. It does not change the law that the village has adopted, unfortunately. I've heard that, well, now Harriman, can do this. Well, Harriman voted to opt out. In fact, every municipality in the county of Orange has opted out, with the exception of the village of Woodbury and Newburgh. And I thank all those other towns and villages for being smart enough to understand you don't vote on a law that hasn't been established yet. And my only big feeling on this is, with the village being the only municipality, the southern end of Orange County, that, well, where else are you going to be able to get marijuana? In Woodbury. So that's going to draw people here for that purpose. And as far as it being legal for you to drink, I look at it this way. This is allowing distribution of pot. This is not medicinal marijuana. This is not to help people get rid of pain or anything like that. This is for people to get high. It's plain and simple. And you're going to allow people to open up a store that you can go in and smoke it. Well, how are you getting home? Okay? How are you going to drive home after having a joint or two? So those are my feelings on it. I know that, some people said, well, it's the law, so we should be in favor of it or something like that. Well, we do have laws for, that are on the books for, strip joints and stuff like that can be legalized in New York, but I don't see them happening in Woodbury either. So you have your choice to vote on it. You have your choice to speak up on it. So I'm going to open the floor to my fellow board members on it. And we'll go from there. So,
Frank,
yes.
Here is Tom. All right, before we open it up, unless somebody wants to speak, I'd like to hear, being that this is just something that's being discussed for the first time on this day, at the end of the year, the last meeting before the new board takes over, I'd like to hear from Joe McKay. I'd like to hear his thoughts and what he has to say at this time. Joe's on, isn't he? I'm on the phone call. Yeah,
he is.
So before we get, unless the town board wants to, this present town board wants to go, I'd like to hear from Joe first for my comment.
No problem. Go ahead, Joe. We spoke about it yesterday, so go ahead.
And I think Frank generally is correct. So correct in what he explained with respect to the legal part of it. Obviously, I'm not going to weigh in on anything else, but of course, yes. Earlier this year, the MRTA law was adopted. The law makes it legal to have local establishments, use establishments, which would be similar to bars, and dispensaries, which would be similar to liquor stores. So the New York State law authorizes and makes those types of businesses legal everywhere in the state. There's a provision in the MRTA that allows cities, towns, and villages to opt out of the MRTA's provisions. By opting out, what you would be doing is prohibiting the dispensaries and on-site establishments in the town or in any town or village. And as I think has been discussed, many cities, towns, and villages have opted out, and a more limited number have opted in. So in our particular case, the entirety of the town is taken up by the village of Woodbury and the village of Harriman. So that makes the town of Woodbury unique. There is no unincorporated territory within the town where an opt-out law could apply. What that means is that the action with respect to the MRTA fell to the village of Woodbury and the village of Harriman, and the town had no legislative authority, no power to adopt the opt-out provision. That's why we really haven't discussed this in the past, because it just was not an issue for this particular town to act on. So that's the overall general legal landscape, so to speak, with respect to the MRTA and the town of Woodbury in particular. I did prepare the resolution that the supervisor requested. We are not adopting a law. We are not opting out of anything. We have no authority to do that as a town, as this particular town. It is essentially, that resolution is a statement of policy. It says what this town board would have done if it had the authority to adopt an opt-out law. And the way it's phrased is that it says that the town board would have, because of the character of the town, the family-oriented character of the town, that the board believes it's not in the best interest of the town to allow the on-site establishments and dispensaries. And the resolution, again, is a policy statement that says if we had the authority to do this, the town board would have opted out to prevent dispensaries and on-site establishments in the town.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, am I back in?
You're back in.
All right, good.
Okay.
Did Joe have anything else to say? I had lost you for a minute. I had to come back in.
He basically stated, like what I stated, this is basically a non-binding resolution. It's basically stating how the town would have voted had we had the opportunity to vote. And then that's really what it is. We're stating how we felt we would have. I think the people of Woodbury, the town of Woodbury, and the residents would have liked to have known maybe how we would have voted. That's really what it comes down to. So, I mean, you don't have to vote. You can abstain. You can vote yes, or you can vote no. It's like I said, it's completely a non-binding resolution, but it's given you an opportunity to let the people in the town of Woodbury know on what side of the coin that you would have chosen or not chosen. So I'll open it up with Jackie. You want to, because usually you're on the far end on the right, so we're going to go that way. Jackie, would you like to say something on this?
Yeah. Actually, I recall when we first initially, when Frank, when you brought this issue to me, or at least this conversation to me, and we had a discussion on it. Um, this is a very, this conversation is weighed on so many different levels. For me in particular, I was not in support of opting in, and that's based on a number of different reasons. For one, this, it's like any community. Um, just because it's legal doesn't necessarily mean it's what's going to be good for the community that we live in. And I wanted to opt out at the time, because I felt that, when I chose Woodbury as my community, I came from Brooklyn, New York. Um, that's the mecca of marijuana, whether it was legal or not. That's what was out there. I do appreciate the arguments on both sides, and I tend to like to listen to both sides before sharing my views on things, because I'm here to represent the community, not necessarily my own individual views. But as a mother of four, and I've shared this with my fellow board member, Tyler, as a mother of four, when you talk about introducing this option into Woodbury, you have both sides. You have the medicinal side, which of course there are people. My sister has MS. There's people who I know and love who struggle with pain, and the medicinal benefits are wonderful for them, and it provides that. There's also the revenue that would come with this. On the other side of that, right, I hear that alcohol is legal, and you can't stop, a liquor store from coming. But I was against having a beer world where we have our dugout. So when you talk about a community, and you're talking about a family oriented community, you're looking at what items or what things, what laws are you passing that's going to impact the overall quality of life in your community. And so when you say to place these options in our community, I'm thinking big, right? I'm not thinking just Cure Leaf as medicinal. I'm thinking smoke shops down the road. I have four teenagers, right? I know that drugs is available, and if they really wanted it, they can pursue it. But having a smoke shop, right on Main Route 32, or if you've been in New York City, as Stephen said, I've walked in a bunch of those clouds of marijuana clouds. As I was walking in New York City, they had a weed van, and of course it will, as was pointed out to me, will require a peddler's license. But again, if we don't know what laws are dictating this opt in, opt out, what we need more information about it. And at minimum, opting out would allow us to take time to understand a little more about what it is that is going to be allowed, what's not going to be allowed, and to determine if this is what we want in our community. When you talk about money versus quality of life, we have to be very careful. That's a very, very slippery slope for me, because when you're saying money over family values or the character of your town, you're going to change the demographics of your community. Because if you have families that don't agree with this, who have children who could be impacted by this, because we know very easily already right now, you have teenagers in both Cornwall School District and Monroe Woodbury School District, teenagers who are selling weed vapes and all types of stuff. So, again, accessibility makes these things a lot easier to happen in our schools, in our community. The schools are having a horrendous time fighting drugs in the school without bringing it to the public light, but they're having a horrendous time dealing with this. And again, I don't condone a beer world in our community, as I don't for a smoke shop. It's just, as a resident, as a mother of four, it's not what I was looking for when I moved into Woodbury. So again, I understand revenue is important for our community. I think our town has worked very hard to provide a stable, fiscally responsible budget that has really helped our community and really making sure that the money gets reinvested into the community and that we're doing the best for our community. Moving forward, I don't see that this at this time, I don't think there's sufficient information about what can and cannot happen with these, with passing this, opting in. I don't have enough information, and so for that reason, I would have voted to opt out.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, I'm all right. Tyler?
This was just sprung on us yesterday, and I really had no time to research what's going on in other places that had it, or so I really have no information on it. So I can't really pass judgment on something that I know very, very little about. So that's all I got to say.
Okay. I'm gonna go over all the way to the other far end, Councilman Hunter.
If I wanted a product that was illegal is now legal, I would like to go to a place where I know I can get something that is pure and at least safe and controlled. So I would be in favor of allowing dispensaries like this. I'm sure there's going to be issues and growing pains, but they can be dealt with as needed. And I mean, you know what? Times are changing. I can't imagine someone opening a place like this in Woodbury, but who knows? I think the village has made it very difficult for businesses in general to open in Woodbury, which is a whole other topic. But that's, you know what I'm talking about, Frank. And
I do.
That's really all I have to say right now. Thanks.
Okay, that's a good observation, Bob. Unfortunately, with the passing of this law, you really can't prevent it. That's a big problem, is that you can't prevent it. But I understand what you're saying. Okay, we do have that one barrier in front of us. It's called the Village Planning Board. All right, Supervisor-elect, Mr. Tom
Yes.
Burke.
Okay, thanks for that. I appreciate all the comments that I listened to this morning. It's something that I feel should have been discussed a lot sooner. This was an issue that was brought up with the village back in June. This current board has not discussed it as a full board. There might have been some individual conversations I was not privy to, and I did not carry on any conversations with any board members prior to this morning. So this is not something, and after listening to Joe McKay at this time, I feel that it's important for the community that we continue working together as a village, both incoming village and town board. And we're working very hard right now to do that. And for something like this to be discussed today, I don't think it's appropriate. I think should have been a lot more conversation about this prior to today. But I know that there's some people on this board that are leaving, and this was their last opportunity to speak on it, and they are. But this isn't a discussion or a vote or anything that we should be doing. I'm looking to discuss this further with the new incoming board and the village.
Okay.
But I heard what everybody had to say, and I appreciate everybody's point of view.
Okay, fair enough, Tom. As I said, the reason why it didn't come up until now is that, as Joe said, we really never had a say in this legally. But as I said, Steve called me up. I saw it in the paper. It kind of renewed the interest in me, and I just felt that I would get it out there. But I understand. So I'm going to ask. We don't really have to vote on it. You know what? You made your statements clear. No sense, as Tom said, pinning the continued board members to a situation and the board members that are leaving anything. But we made our feelings clear, And I think that's very important. And I think people in the town of Woodbury now know how basically we feel on this subject. So with that.
No, Frank, before you, no, I just have to correct, they're not on, they understand how the current board members are that are leaving. They had their say, but the current board members that are returning, I don't want to speak for Tyler, I'll just speak for myself, Tom Burke, that we did not have conversations. We did not communicate with the village board. They didn't communicate with us. We didn't communicate with them. That's not what this conversation is about this morning. But we needed to have further conversations so we could have better educated responses, and we could have had a more further discussion with other members of the community also. So I hear what you're saying. It's not a tit for tat back and forth, but I just wanted to let that be said also. But thank you.
It's fair enough, Tom. I'm not here to, like you said, I'm not here for a tit for tat or to argue. You said what you had to say, and that's fine. Listen, just, you know, you got a chance to say what you wanted to say, and that's fine. Okay. We need to make a motion and a second to accept the resignation of Jeffrey Montaigne as a part-time library multimedia technician at the Woodbury Library, effective the end of the day on Saturday, December 18th, 2021. I need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
I got a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against it? Okay. I don't see any old business. I think we've made our board member comments already at our last board meeting. So I need a motion and a second to have an adjournment.
Make
I'll
motion.
that motion.
Jackie, are you seconding that? Right. Who made the motion? Who seconded?
I made
Jackie
the
can
motion.
make it, I'll second.
Okay. Very good. Want to wish everybody a happy new year. Want to wish the incoming board much success, and God bless you all. Have a good day.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
We voted in favor, I gather, to adjourn?
Yes.
Have a good day. Goodbye, everybody.